The Predator's Pride. The hunting song echoed through the bio-corridors of the Blood Talon as Commander Zektar felt the familiar thrill of the hunt course through his scaled hide. His ship, a living masterpiece of Vorthak bioengineering, pulsed with anticipation as it cut through the void at the head of his hunting pack. 15 ships strong, the 47th hunting pack was among the most feared in the Vorthak Empire, and Zektar had earned his position through centuries of successful hunts across the galaxy. The Vorthak had ruled the outer spiral arms for over 2 millennia, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through pure predatory excellence. They were hunters by nature, their entire civilization built around the philosophy that strength came from taking it from others. Their ships were grown rather than built, bred for speed and lethality like the great void sharks of their homeworld's ancient seas. Each vessel was a living weapon, capable of regenerating damage and adapting to new threats. Pack Leader, hissed Sub-Commander Yith from her position at the sensory cluster, her forked tongue tasting the electromagnetic currents that their ship used to navigate. New scent trail detected. Grid 77 Alpha. Unknown signature. Zektar's golden eyes gleamed with interest as he moved to the observation dome, his clawed feet clicking against the ship's organic flooring. The Blood Talon adjusted its sensory organs automatically, focusing on the coordinates Yith had provided. Through the translucent biomembrane that served as their view screen, space bent and focused until the target came into view. Curious, Zektar rumbled, his voice carrying the deep harmonics that marked him as an alpha predator. The ship hanging in space before them was unlike anything in their extensive prey catalogs. It was clearly artificial, constructed of metal and composite materials rather than grown from living tissue. But what struck him most was how crude it appeared. The vessel was roughly cylindrical, perhaps 800 meters long, with angular protrusions that seemed to serve no aesthetic purpose. It looked more like a tool than a proper starship. Analysis, Zektar commanded, and the ship's biocomputers immediately began their work. Information flowed directly into his consciousness through the neural link all Vorthak commanders shared with their vessels. The target ship's hull composition was primitive steel and ceramic composites. Its power signature suggested fusion reactors, an ancient technology that most civilizations abandoned once they discovered biofusion. Most telling of all, it appeared to be completely alone. Isolated prey, Yith observed, her own excitement evident in the way her crest flared. No pack support detected within 12 light hours. Energy signature suggests minimal armament. This should be entertaining. Zektar allowed himself a predatory smile. It had been too long since they had encountered truly helpless prey. Most species in this sector had learned to travel in heavily defended convoys or had submitted to Vorthak authority. But this unknown vessel appeared to be traveling alone through space with the confidence of either complete ignorance or supreme arrogance. Signal the pack, Zektar ordered. Standard hunting formation. We shall circle and observe before closing for the kill. I want to understand this prey before we devour it. The 15 ships of the 47th hunting pack spread out in a complex three-dimensional pattern that had been perfected over centuries of successful hunts. Each bioship moved with fluid grace, their living hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns that served as both communication and intimidation. The formation was designed to prevent escape while allowing the pack to study their target's behavior and capabilities. As they approached, more details became visible about the strange vessel. Its hull was covered with what appeared to be sensor arrays and communication equipment, but Zektar could detect no obvious weapon systems. The ship's movement was slow and predictable, following a straight course through space without any attempt at evasive maneuvers or defensive positioning. They showed no fear, observed Sub-Commander Krex from his position monitoring the pack's formation. Perhaps they have not detected us. Zektar considered this possibility. The Vorthak bioships were masters of stealth, their living hulls able to mimic the background radiation of space and mask their approach. But at this range, any competent sensor system should have detected their presence. Either this species was technologically primitive beyond belief, or they were displaying a level of confidence that bordered on suicidal. Initiate contact protocols, Zektar decided. Let us see how they react when they realize they are being hunted. The blood talon extended its communication tendrils, organs specifically evolved to interface with the electromagnetic spectrum used by most technological species. Within moments, they had located and tapped into the alien ship's communication frequencies. The first thing that struck Zektar was the chaos of signals emanating from the vessel. Multiple frequencies carried what appeared to be casual conversation, system diagnostics, and even what sounded like entertainment programs. They broadcast everything, Yith observed with amazement. No communication discipline at all. It is as if they have never encountered a predator species. Zektar listened to the intercepted communications, his ship's biocomputers working to decode the alien language. The process was remarkably simple. These beings seemed to have no concept of encryption or code. Their thoughts and plans were transmitted openly across space for anyone to hear. Gradually, a picture began to emerge of the species they were stalking. They called themselves humans and appeared to be omnivorous bipeds from a world they called Earth. Their technology was indeed primitive by Vorthak standards, relying on crude mechanical systems rather than elegant biological solutions. But what intrigued Zektar most was their apparent lack of natural predators. Their communications revealed a species that had evolved as hunters themselves, but hunters of prey that could not fight back in space. Pack Leader Krex reported, "We have completed our circle. The prey remains oblivious to our presence. Shall we begin the final approach?" Zektar was about to give the order when something in the human communications caught his attention. The casual chatter had suddenly stopped, replaced by crisp, professional exchanges. The change was so abrupt that it sent a chill down his spine. In his centuries of hunting, he had learned to recognize the moment when prey realized it was being stalked. "Belay that order," Zektar commanded. "Maintain position and observe." On the human vessel, the transformation was remarkable. The seemingly chaotic ship suddenly revealed hidden purpose in its design. What had appeared to be civilian sensor arrays were repositioning themselves with military precision. The crude angular protrusions were rotating to face the Vorthak formation, and Zektar realized with growing unease that they were not structural elements at all. Pack Leader Yith's voice carried a note of uncertainty that Zektar had never heard before. "I am detecting massive energy buildups within the human vessel. The readings are unprecedented." Before Zektar could respond, space around the human ship began to shimmer. One moment there was a single crude vessel hanging defenseless in the void. The next moment, that ship was surrounded by dozens of identical vessels, each one materializing from what had appeared to be empty space. "Stealth systems," Krex whispered in disbelief. "But their technology is primitive. How can they possess stealth capabilities beyond our sensors?" Zektar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. The humans had not been alone. They had never been alone. The single ship had been bait, and the Vorthak pack had walked directly into a trap that defied everything they understood about technology and warfare. The human fleet now numbered 47 ships, each one identical to the first. But more were still appearing as the stealth systems failed or were deliberately deactivated. 50 ships, 60, 75. The humans had brought an entire fleet to what the Vorthak had assumed would be a simple hunt. Pack Leader Yith's voice was barely a whisper. "They are targeting us. All of us. Simultaneously." Zektar looked at his tactical display and felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of hunting. Fear. The human ships had acquired target locks on every single Vorthak vessel in his pack. Not gradually, not one at a time as would be expected from primitive targeting systems, but all at once with mechanical precision that suggested computational power beyond Vorthak comprehension. "How long have they been watching us?" Zektar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. The question was answered by a transmission from the lead human vessel. The communication was clean, direct, and delivered in perfectly fluent Vorthak language. The voice that spoke was calm, professional, and utterly without fear. "Commander Zektar of the 47th Hunting Pack," the human voice said, "this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. You have been under observation for the past 6 standard days. Your hunting patterns, tactical formations, and bioship capabilities have been cataloged and analyzed. You are surrounded, outgunned, and outmaneuvered. I strongly suggest you prepare to discuss terms." The transmission ended, leaving the Vorthak pack in stunned silence. For the first time in their history, the hunters had become the hunted, and the prey they had stalked had revealed itself to be a predator more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zektar looked at his pack formation, scattered and vulnerable, completely surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. In his centuries of hunting, he had always believed that the Vorthak were the apex predators of the galaxy. Now he was beginning to understand that they had simply never encountered the species that hunted the hunters themselves. The humans were patient, methodical, and utterly ruthless in their approach. They had watched, learned, and prepared while the Vorthak played their ancient hunting games. And now, as space filled with the energy signatures of weapons beyond Vorthak understanding, Zektar realized that the 47th Hunting Pack was about to learn what it felt like to be prey. When prey becomes predator, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Nightfall, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the Vorthak formation through the tactical display. At 53, she had spent the last 20 years of her life studying one thing: how to hunt the hunters. The Vorthak Empire had terrorized the galaxy for 2 millennia, their bioships appearing from nowhere to devastate entire civilizations. But they had made one critical mistake. They had developed patterns. "Tactical assessment. Commander Park," Elena said quietly to her second-in-command, a young officer whose analytical mind had been crucial in developing their current strategy. Commander Sarah Park's fingers moved across her console with practiced efficiency. "All 78 ships report ready status, Captain. Stealth generators are operating at full capacity. The Vorthak fleet remains in standard hunting formation. They haven't adapted to our presence yet." Elena nodded. The humans had spent 6 months analyzing Vorthak hunting patterns from the scattered records of a dozen dead civilizations. Every species the Vorthak had encountered had made the same mistake. They had tried to fight the bioships on their own terms. But Elena had realized something that no one else had considered. The Vorthak were not just hunters, they were pack hunters. And pack hunters could be out-hunted by a larger, smarter pack. 6 days, Elena murmured, remembering the patience required to execute this plan. 6 days we've been watching them stalk our decoy ship. 6 days of learning their individual movement patterns, their communication protocols, their tactical preferences. I think we know them better than they know themselves. The trap had been months in the making. The single human ship that had served as bait was crewed entirely by volunteers who had lost family members to Vorthak raids. They had sat alone in space for a week, broadcasting false signals and appearing helpless while the most advanced stealth fleet in human history surrounded them. The Vorthak had taken the bait perfectly, following their ancient instincts right into the center of Elena's web. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Chen from the communication station, "we're receiving scattered transmissions from the Vorthak fleet. Their formation is beginning to show signs of panic. It appears they're trying to coordinate a response." Elena smiled grimly. This was exactly what she had expected. The Vorthak had never encountered a situation where they were the prey instead of the predators. Their entire tactical doctrine was built around hunting isolated, frightened targets. They had no protocols for dealing with a coordinated ambush by a superior force. "Let them talk," Elena said. "Their communications will tell us more about their capabilities than any intelligence report. Commander Park, begin Phase 2. The human fleet moved with mechanical precision that contrasted sharply with the fluid grace of the Vorthak bioships. Where the aliens moved like living creatures, the human vessels operated like components of a vast machine. Each ship knew its role, its position, and its target. There was no wasted motion, no unnecessary communication. no emotional responses to cloud their judgment. Commander Zektar watched in growing horror as the human fleet began to demonstrate capabilities that should have been impossible for their primitive technology. The stealth systems that had hidden 78 ships from Vorthak biosensors were beyond anything in their databases. But it was not just the technology that unsettled him. It was the coordination. "They move as one mind," Sub-Commander Yith observed, her voice filled with an emotion that Sektar had never heard from her before: respect. "Each ship knows what the others will do before they do it. How is this possible without bioneural linking?" Zektar had been wondering the same thing. The Vorthak achieved perfect coordination through biological connections between their ships and crews. Each bioship was semi-sentient, capable of responding to the collective will of the pack. But the human ships were clearly mechanical constructs, yet they moved with coordination that exceeded even the best Vorthak formations. "Pack leader," Krex reported from his position, "the humans are moving to envelop us completely. If they continue this pattern, we will have no escape routes within the next 10 minutes. The tactical situation was unlike anything in Vorthak experience. In their normal hunts, they were the ones surrounding isolated prey. They had never developed strategies for breaking out of an encirclement because they had never needed them. Their entire military doctrine was built around being the superior force, not the trapped one. "Signal the pack," Zektar ordered, falling back on the only strategy he knew. "Attack formation. We charge through their line and break into open space." It was a desperate move, but the Vorthak bioships had one advantage. They were fast and maneuverable. If they could punch through the human formation before the trap closed completely, they might still escape. The 15 ships of the 47th Hunting Pack suddenly accelerated, their living hulls rippling with bioluminescent war patterns as they prepared for combat. The human response was immediate and devastating. Elena had anticipated this exact move. In her studies of Vorthak tactics, she had learned that trapped predators always attempted to break out through the weakest point in their enemy's formation. So she had made sure there was no weak point. "All ships, implement Hunter Protocol 7. Elena commanded. "Show them what real pack hunting looks like." The human fleet split into smaller groups with mathematical precision. Instead of maintaining a single formation that the Vorthak could charge through, they divided into hunting packs of their own. Each pack consisted of 6 ships operating in perfect coordination, and each pack targeted a single Vorthak vessel. Commander Zektar watched in disbelief as the human ships began to demonstrate tactics that the Vorthak had believed were exclusively biological. The mechanical vessels moved like living predators, surrounding individual bioships and coordinating their attacks with the patience of seasoned hunters. But where biological predators might hesitate or show mercy, the human ships operated with mechanical ruthlessness. "Pack leader." Yith's voice carried a note of panic. "The Void Serpent is under attack by 6 human vessels. They are using coordinated energy weapons to overwhelm her regenerative capabilities. She cannot adapt fast enough." Zektar felt his heart sink as he watched one of his packmates being systematically dismantled by human weapons. The Vorthak bioships could regenerate damage and adapt to new threats, but they needed time. The humans were not giving them that time. Their weapons struck in rapid succession, each shot precisely calculated to prevent the bioship from mounting an effective defense. "Bloodfang is also under attack," Krex reported. "The humans are using different weapons on each target. They appear to have analyzed our adaptive capabilities and developed countermeasures." The tactical display showed the horrible truth of their situation. Each Vorthak ship was being engaged by a coordinated human hunting pack, and each pack was using different tactics and weapons. The humans had not just studied Vorthak hunting patterns, they had studied Vorthak biology, technology, and defensive capabilities. They knew exactly how to kill bioships efficiently. Elena watched the battle unfold with professional satisfaction. This was the culmination of 2 decades of preparation. Every human ship captain had been trained specifically for this moment. They knew the regeneration rates of Vorthak bioships, the power output of their weapons, the limitations of their stealth systems. The humans had turned scientific analysis into a weapon of war. "Captain," Commander Park reported, "the Vorthak are attempting to signal surrender. Should we accept?" Elena considered the question carefully. The Vorthak had never shown mercy to any species they had hunted. Their entire civilization was built on the philosophy that strength gave the right to take from the weak. But Elena was not a Vorthak. She was human, and humans had learned to be better predators without losing their capacity for mercy. "Open a channel to the Vorthak commander," Elena ordered. Commander Zektar's image appeared on the human view screen, and Elena could see the defeat in his golden eyes. The proud predator who had hunted across the galaxy for centuries was broken, his confidence shattered by the realization that he had always been the smaller fish in a very large pond. "Commander Zektar," Elena said, her voice calm and professional, "you have two choices. You can continue fighting and watch your entire pack die, or you can surrender and learn what it means to be civilized." The Vorthak commander stared at her for a long moment, and Elena could see him struggling with concepts that his species had never needed to consider. Surrender, mercy, civilization. These were alien concepts to a race that had known only hunting and dominance. "If we surrender," Zektar asked slowly, "what becomes of us?" Elena's expression softened slightly. "You learn. You adapt. You become something better than what you were. The galaxy is large enough for both our species, Commander, but only if yours learns to hunt something other than sentient beings." The silence stretched for long moments as Zektar considered the offer. Around him, his pack was being systematically destroyed by human weapons and tactics. The choice was between certain death and uncertain change. "I surrender," Zektar said finally, the words feeling strange in his mouth. "The 47th hunting pack yields to the superior hunters." Elena nodded. "Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to the nearest human colony. You have a lot to learn about what it means to be part of a civilized galaxy." As the Vorthak bioships powered down their weapons and submitted to human escort, Elena reflected on what had just happened. For 2 millennia, the Vorthak had been the apex predators of the galaxy, hunting weaker species with impunity. But they had never encountered humans, a species that had learned to hunt not just for survival, but for justice. The humans had spent centuries hunting their own predators to extinction, then turned their attention to hunting pirates, slavers, and other threats to civilization. When they finally encountered the Vorthak, they had simply applied their most advanced hunting techniques to a new type of prey. The galaxy's most feared predators had discovered that in the vast ecosystem of space, there was always a bigger predator. And sometimes that predator was patient enough to study its prey for months before making its move. As the combined fleet moved toward human space, Elena smiled. The Vorthak would learn to be civilized, just as humans had centuries ago. And if they didn't, well, the galaxy's new apex predators were very patient hunters indeed.